It's about to be playoff time here in Memphis, and this is Grind Season. This is Anthony Sain, one of the hosts of the Grind Season podcast. Welcome to Grind Season with Anthony Sain and Jason Smith. Jason Smith, of course, is the host of the Jason and John Show, which you can hear Monday through Friday from 11 to 2 p.m., 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on 92.9 FM, which, of course, is Odyssey Station. We thank you guys. You guys have got us through our first regular season. We made it, Jason Smith. We made it through an entire regular season of a podcast. We made it. Two brothers employed, two brothers making it out here. We got it through a regular season. Jason Smith, how you doing, brother?
Everything is good, ready for these play-in games and these playoffs to get rolling. But we got a little bit clearer idea of what's happening. So eager to talk about it, what you're saying.
Yeah, man, it's going down. This is a big week coming up for us as far as preparation for the playoffs. A lot of news happened over the weekend. We'll definitely talk about that and more today on the show. Steven Adams was announced that he's probably going to be out for the playoffs. He has a little roster movement, which you don't see too much of right before the playoffs or before the last game of the season. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the play-in tournament, which is happening Tuesday. We, of course, are not in the play-in, but we will talk about the 4 games. 2 of those games could possibly affect us, more so, of course, 1. But we'll see, and we'll talk about that as well. And we'll wrap up the show with who brought the seasoning. I got a different spin today on what I'm going to say. I'm not sure where you're going to go. There's a lot of candidates. I haven't checked to see what the people have had to say, but I definitely have a different spin today, as I'll go on a mini rant probably a little bit. But like we talked about when we first started up the show, we will open talking about the whole Steven Adams situation. News came out on, I think, Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, Saturday, saying that, it was Saturday, because I was in the midst of, we were both in the midst of a busy 9-year-old son Saturday that included birthday parties, haircuts, those type of things. So in the middle of all that, we get the information that Steven Adams probably would be missing the playoffs. The news started with an announcement that Kennedy Chandler would be getting waived by the Grizzlies. Kennedy Chandler, of course, rookie player this year, acquired in the second round by the Memphis Grizzlies, was not on a 2-way deal, did not have much time in South Haven with the hustle. Played most of his time here with the Grizzlies. Was waived on Saturday. A light bulb went off in my head. Okay, is this to sign Junior? Is this to sign Kenneth Lofton? I mean, because, of course, for Kenneth Lofton to play in the playoffs, he would have to be on a regular contract. He couldn't play on a 2-way in the playoffs. So that light bulb went off about Junior Lofton. I started talking to some of my friends about it, and they was like, oh, man, I wonder, does this have anything to do with Adams? I'm like, no way, man. Like, that didn't have anything to do with Adams, because even if Adams is there, it's not that you're just going to throw Lofton in cold. So I'm like, it couldn't be for Adams. And then moments later, if not minutes later, Steven Adams was announced to be out, more than likely for the playoffs, by Adrian Wojnarowski. And that information is yet to be confirmed by the Memphis Grizzlies. Jason Smith, is there a conspiracy going on with the Memphis Grizzlies organization if it's Steven Adams thing, or is what we're hearing pretty much true, that Steven Adams is going to be gone? What's your opinion on that, just the entire thing?
I mean, I don't know if there's a conspiracy going on, saying that's more your department. You can tell us.
That's mine.
As far as the news itself, devastating, as far as I'm concerned, because, as well as this team had kind of figured out things without Steven Adams, was the last 36 games of the regular season he's missed now, you're still going to miss him. And particularly if you draw a team, and we've touched on this, like the Lakers, who can who can beat you up front. You like to have all the bodies you can, and whether it's the screening and everything we went through with James last podcast, or the offensive rebounding, you were just not the same team from a rebounding standpoint without him. And I do think for Ja Morant, in terms of clearing out that lane, setting those screens, it changes his game. So it's a blow. Can you survive it? Sure. We know he got played off the floor in the playoffs last season, then injured. Tillman had 6 playoff starts last year. You still managed to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I do think, saying, if you can get past what potentially a first-round series with the Lakers, if that's who indeed it is, then I think, if you're talking about a Golden State or a Sacramento, you can play small against those teams. Maybe you can even get away with it. Hopefully you can get away with it against the Lakers, but there's no way to spin this positive for the Grizzlies. It was unfortunate news, especially when we've thought twice now saying he was close to getting back. And now you've sort of had the rug pulled out from under you.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen him walking around, working out, the doing the 5-on-5. So you felt like he was close. And so with expecting him to be back at one point, yeah, it's tough news for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, it's really tough. I was really surprised, joking pretty much about the whole conspiracy thing. I think that the news is truly stated. I would not be surprised to see him back earlier than most people probably would. A lot of people are like, if we make the finals type talk. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back earlier than that. Because you got to think, man, like the finals are like in June. That's, the NBA finals the playoffs last a long time. So I could definitely see him being back a little earlier than that. Who knows? It's definitely a blow, though, man, because we've talked about, to no end what Steven Adams brings to this team in his absence. Like I said, we pretty much get all that. We understand what he's going to miss, what we're going to miss by him not being there. I'm a little optimistic. I talked about the Lakers earlier, man, on Twitter, and it's like I've been keeping an eye on them because they felt like they're going to be our matchup, in the first round. And you're talking about a team who went to overtime with Utah, a team who's not trying to win. A lot of their guys just aren't out there. They went to overtime with them the other night. Had a very close game with them last night in the situation that decided who was going to get home court, all these type of things in the play-in. And they lost to the Clippers in a game that the Clippers may or may not have been trying to win. You know what I mean? I think the Lakers are a lot better since the deadline, but I really don't think that team is actually that good. They've got the names. They've got a good to decent starting lineup, but I just don't trust that team in a 7-game series against a team that's youthful, that's energetic, that's high paced like the Grizzlies, who can just go on crazy runs out of nowhere. I don't take that Lakers team serious. I think they're going to beat Minnesota because that's the biggest shit show in the NBA right now, other than Dallas, is Minnesota. And I think that's going to be a pretty easy win for them. But I think the Grizzlies will fare very well against them for sure. But yeah, without Steven Adams, it's going to be totally different. I think with Steven Adams, we probably would have blasted that Lakers team, just to be honest with you. But I think it's going to be harder, but I think we're still going to look very good against them.
The Lakers are 18-8 since the trade deadline. They're third in defense since the trade deadline. Yeah, just in terms of finish up. I believe the Grizzlies will beat them in a series, especially having home court advantage. But I would much rather see the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh yeah,
there's no question about it. And again, the Lakers now look a lot more like the bubble team Lakers that were playing elite level defense. 6 of the last 10 NBA championships been top 5 in defense. That's what they've been from a defensive standpoint since the trade deadline. You're talking about LeBron, you're talking about AD, and saying I worry about the officiating. I worry about that, especially when a guy like Dylan Brooks plays on the edge. How is he allowed to play his game against the LeBron? Those kinds of things. And then Steven Adams, you're talking about when he went out 36 games ago now, you were number 2 in the league in offensive rebounding. You dropped down to 22nd in the league since. You're average. Now, here's the hope, saying this is where I'm with you, that adding Luke Kennard, Jaren's leap has made you a more efficient team offensively.
But we don't need
to rely as much on offensive rebounding like you've had in the past when you were, average at 3-point shooting at best, closer to the bottom. Luke's improved that. Jaren's improved that, especially with his game inside the arc. But it's a loss. I guess I'm taking the Lakers just a tad more seriously than you. But ultimately, we're in the same place that even without Steven Adams, without Brandon Clark, they'll get through this series.
Because I don't I'm sorry, I just don't trust Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell.
You bring up a great point because those guys got
them dudes got to guard 2 of the better guards in the NBA. I don't see it, man. And I've seen this Lakers team, like I said, struggle against Utah. Some guys out there just trying to get a contract. I don't think they're gonna be able to deal with us, man. And I know LeBron's LeBron. I know he's gonna get calls. But I 100% predict this for the Grizzlies to come out of this 2 games to none after the first 2 games. So
I hope so.
That's what, do I think the Lakers are going to have to resolve to even make it a series after they're down 2-0? I doubt it. But it's going to be interesting to see for sure. Going back to what we were talking about with the whole Steven Adams situation, of course, you had to let go of Kennedy Chandler. a kid who's got local interests, a kid that a lot of people are pulling for. You cover prep sports here in the city of Memphis, so I'm sure you weren't covering when he was there, but the fact that he's a prep kid coming from here, I know you've got your feelings, your attachments you have as far as that goes. A lot of people, we know him. We know it's Kennedy Chandler. We know him. We know his parents. We see his parents at the games. It's tough seeing him leave. Hoping he can catch on somewhere else. The Grizzlies, after that, of course, gave Kenneth Lofton a 4-year, $7 million deal, and they gave the kid from the G League, who will remain nameless. I know he played like 40 minutes last night. It's Gillian or somebody like that. I don't know. But here's the unfortunate truth about guys in Kennedy's position. And this isn't to offend Kennedy Chandler, his family, friends, anybody in Memphis. There are a lot of guys like Kennedy Chandler in every draft. And it's an unfortunate thing about the NBA. Kennedy Chandler was a top high school prospect in the country, one of the better D1 point guards his freshman year at Tennessee. But for guys who aren't starter level NBA players, like they're not projected to be an NBA starter, who come into the league as a backup, those kind of guys are kind of repeatable. You know what I mean? Like they moved off of Kennedy. They brought the guy in from the G League, gave him a 2-way. I'm probably pretty sure that guy's not going to be on a 2-way contract next year. I'm sure his two-way is going to be over, and they'll have another guy in. And I hate it for Kennedy because I really want to see him catch on here. Stuck behind John Moran, who's one of the best point guards, if not the best point guard in the NBA. Then he's behind Tyus Jones, who's the best backup point guard in the NBA. And then there's you. So he didn't really get a chance to develop this year. If they had traded Tyus at the deadline, you would have gotten more Kennedy going for sure. It's unfortunate, but like I said, those type of guys, there's going to be those type of guys in the draft every year. There's one named Kendrick Davis who's going to be available this year. It just kind of works out like that. It's just always a high-level point guard, high-level college point guard who's available in the second round of the draft, if that's the route you want to go. Like I said, I wish the best for him. Shout out to Junior Lofton, of course. 42 crazy points last night, Jason Smith, against whatever version of the Thunder that is. The Thunder also a team feel like they got 30 guys on their team, because it seems like it's we were talking about Houston. It feels like they got a million dudes on their team. But Kenneth Lofton Jr. signs a 4-year deal with the Grizzlies. Awesome news for him. He was one of those guys when he got signed to a 2-year. My whole thinking was, nah, they're not getting the second year out of that dude on a 2-way. He's going to tell them either let me go or sign me. And they avoided all that drama, inked him to a deal now. So he's a permanent roster player. He'll come on with the team next year on the roster for the foreseeable future. Shout out to Kenneth Lofton. Shout out to Shine last night, scoring 42 points, looking like a beast out there. The baby Zebo stuff is getting national attention now. I'm excited for him. What are your thoughts on Kenneth Lofton signing that 4-year deal with the Grizzlies and shining in that final game of the season?
First thing on Kennedy Chandler, whose spot Kenneth Lofton, like you mentioned,
my bad.
He takes. It just shows you too that sometimes you can do everything right and it still not be enough. And Kennedy Chandler had done everything right, just in terms of the work, doing what was asked of him, being a professional, just everything, the way he was raised up, the kind of player he is. Just in a tough spot when you're the third point guard on a team that's rolling with, John Moran and Tyus Jones.
Right.
That's a tough spot to be on the active roster. So his spot was always, especially if the Grizzlies got in a situation like they have now with Steven Adams being out, his spot was always one that was kind of, thin ice. You could look at it as maybe the backup point guard of the future, but it was always just going to be that. That's the ceiling. He's never going to, he was never going to get ahead of John Moran. And so there was always a ceiling. And when right now, Tyus Jones more needed than now, Kenneth Lofton and another big body, the more needed. It's unfortunate, but Kennedy Chandler becomes a result, of numbers, really a numbers game. That said, on Lofton, it's great to see a guy rewarded for continuing to put in work, not just to get to the league and get a chance with the 2-way deal, but saying after that, continuing to work. He gets the G League Rookie of the Year. You've seen his game continue to expand at that level. And now, you've seen the Grizzlies kind of ramp up and, ramp him up here into the regular season. Sunday was completely different when you're playing him 40 minutes. But now you've got a chance to see, could he handle, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes in a playoff game should you be short with Jaren Jackson, foul trouble, or Xavier Tillman, or somebody going down. So I just think it's, number one, it's a great reward for continued work by Kenneth Lofton Jr.
Yeah.
A great story. Guy we were already rooting for, 6'6" baby Zebo. You're already doing that. But number two, credit to him for putting himself in this position, getting his game better through that season, right? And then putting himself in a position where he can now be called on. And yeah, man, I would suspect in a limited role, he's got, those fouls to give. We know Jaren Jackson's foul history. We know there's a chance, maybe the series is called a little bit tighter with referees. We'll see.
Right.
Having him as is the right move for the team at this point. And we'll see. We'll see if he's even asked to be in a situation where he needs to contribute. Yeah. But I'm confident that in those few minutes asked, he can certainly deliver on the offensive end. We'll see on the defensive end. I thought it's Kenny Chandler, tough story, but Kenneth Lofton kind of a great story. And for Kenny Chandler was a great story. And maybe down the line he gets back hooked on with the Grizzlies, but for him, timeline don't work right now. Third string point guards on active rosters going to the playoffs when you're short on the front court depth. It just your position was takeable.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Only bone I have to pick with the Grizzlies organization, and I'll warm this rant up again in the last segment of the show, is in regards to Kenneth Lofton. Steven Adams has been out since January. Brandon Clark has been out for at least a month. We had ample time to really get him going. Where there were games where he was on the roster and just wasn't playing. And I just thought that if you would have saw more from him, you definitely would have felt more sure about playing him in the playoffs. If Tillman's having a rough night, you could come in with Kenneth Lofton. And I'm not saying you can't do that now, but I just think the likelihood of him actually getting real minutes or being even being trusted at all in the playoffs are kind of minimized now, because I just feel like they should have been warming him up, revving him up, getting him ready, especially when we've seen so many games that we've all kind of said, okay, that was kind of a throwaway game, or we didn't need this guy, or we didn't need that game, or it's not that big of a deal, and we're just trying to get Ja going. And you had all these games that they've kind of treated like, or the narrative has been these are throwaway games. You definitely could have saw more of Kenneth Lofton down the stretch. It feels like to me. And it's we're talking about pulling straws and the whole thing, so it's not that big of a deal. But it's just odd to me that it's just an odd course of action that you wouldn't play him this entire time while Steven Adams and Brandon Clark have been out. But now you sign him to a contract as an emergency big. It's like, okay, well, are you really going to use him though? That's my whole thing as far as that goes. But
I imagine they hoping they don't have to.
Yeah, I'm hoping they don't have to. That's the thing for sure. But like I said, and overall, it's pretty bad news that Steven Adams won't be available for the playoffs. I'm leaning more towards second round than a lot of people saying if we make the finals. I think I'm leaning more towards second round, because that first round is going to take it doesn't start for a week. And it might take 2 weeks to get over with, something like that. A week and a half, 10 more days. You're looking at another maybe 20-something days before,
You're really holding out hope that they can get Steven Adams back.
Because you're seeing him like warming up. He's out there in full gear on, warming up.
We've seen that now for 10 weeks, 12 weeks.
Yeah, that is true. I just don't. I'm going to hold out hope. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with holding out hope for sure. Because it's just none of it really feels or sounds right.
Bro, I remember seeing him at the All-Star break behind somebody who was getting interviewed, him walking around and me like, man, that man ain't got a limp.
Coming back, yeah.
Back in February, right after the injury in late January. And here we are now. The man's been walking. He's been doing,
right.
So it's something I have no trust in anymore in terms of hoping. I was optimistic, obviously, before this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely a punch to the stomach for sure. You guys are listening to the Grind Season Podcast. You're here with Anthony Sain and Jason Smith. We appreciate you guys. In the first segment, we talked about the Steven Adams news. Kenneth Lofton signing a 4-year deal. Kenny Chandler being waived. And the other little dude with the hair. Got a 2-way for a day. Shout out to that dude. Now in the second segment, we're going to talk about the NBA play-in starts Tuesday. 8 teams. When the play-in first started, I was against it. LeBron James was against it. I think Mark Cuban was against it when it first started. It's grown on me. The first year it came in, it felt like it was the Zion Williamson invitation tournament. It seemed like it was something the NBA was doing to try to get Zion Williamson in the playoffs when the NBA resumed back in the bubble. The Grizzlies felt it, man. The Grizzlies were the 7th or 8th seed the entire time for most of the season. They went into the bubble, struggled, had this first play-in game that was Memphis versus Portland. Portland beat us. Our season ended, you know what I mean, just like that. And since they've got it going, since it's been a part of the NBA's structure now for the last few years, the Grizzlies benefited from it. The first year we went to the playoffs, I think we were like in the 9-10 game. We won the 9-10 game. Here's the question, Jason Smith, trivia for you, because I don't know. Who was the team we beat in the 9-10 game to get us to play Golden State?
Is it Spurs?
The Spurs, yep. That's who it was, yep.
Spurs yep. And Golden State that year. Yep.
Yeah, I totally couldn't remember. But that year we beat the Spurs, like you said, in the 9-10 game. I want to say we were at home. We were the 9 seed. Spurs were 10. We beat the Spurs, if I'm not mistaken. Then you turn around and you beat the Golden State Warriors on the road.
Right.
You get the 8 seed.
Right.
You're right. You get the 8 seed. You play Utah. You win a game. Series is looking good. You lose 4-1. But because of the play-in, we got in. We got burnt by it originally. We got in off of the second time. Hasn't been our problem the last few years. I think last year there was some controversy because Minnesota was a few games ahead of everyone else. And a lot of people were saying it was unfair that they had to play in it. I like it, though, man. I'm a fan of the play-in. You got 4 awesome games that are going to happen this week. You got more teams that are having something to play for. It made yesterday's games more interesting as well. I'm down for it, man. I like the play-in. Any comments on your general thoughts on the play-in?
No, like you said, for the most part. I mean, I looked at it today. I thought the Western Conference matchups a little bit more compelling than Hawks Heat and Raptors. But, Thunder, Pelicans, that Pelicans team here has shown, man, it can be dangerous. So, the 2 Western Conference matchups look good to me. I'm with you on that. I could, the 2 in the East, though, I can't sit up here and tell you, I can't wait for Hawks and Heat and that, see who gets the 7. Nah,
right. I mean, who gets the ass whooped by Boston? Yeah.
Let's be real. Whether it was Golden State that fell in the spot or the Lakers, like having a team that's got championship DNA in this kind of spot spices things up. And for Lakers Timberwolves, we would be interested in that even if the Grizzlies weren't the 2. That having LeBron James in a play-in. So it only does that add drama in the end. Saying I'm with you that it's added some spice to it.
Yeah, I like it. And all I like, I think it's a good thing. It's almost got the NCAA tournament feel. Like it's win or go home. You know what I mean? And if you lose, if you're in the 9-10 game, you lose, you're done.
Yeah, you're done.
If you win that game, you still get a shot to get in to take on that team who lost the 7-8 game. So in essence, the Lakers could lose to Minnesota at home, turn around and they would host another game, right? Yeah, they would host that game against the winner of OKC versus New Orleans. And you could still find a way to get in, but you would get in at 8. I just think it's dope, man. I didn't like it at first. Like I said, it's grown on me. Just quick predictions. I'll throw these out at you as well. You said you pretty much don't care. Lakers host Minnesota. Winner comes to Memphis for a game 1.
Rudy not playing. We didn't touch? Rudy Gobert suspended for that game, it looks like?
Gobert suspended. Yep, that's big. I think just because of that alone, if Rudy Gobert played, I had Minnesota possibly winning this game because they definitely match up with you in the front court with Gobert and Towns. I think that would have been a hell of a matchup. I just think the Lakers are going to find a way to beat them shorthanded. That team's going to be without McDaniels as well, who punched the wall in the second quarter. Just a bonehead play. I don't get that organization at all. Don't get that team. I've got the Lakers beating Minnesota on Tuesday.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. I think the McDaniels news is the biggest. That's who they typically put on LeBron James. Mm-hmm. The guy, all 78 games he had been available, he'd started. He is one of their glue. They're going to miss the
leap this year. Took a real leap, man.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, that's going to suck for them. I think the Lakers are going to get them up out of here. Pelicans are hosting Oklahoma City Thunder. Thunder just kind of blown some opportunities this year. They had a nice little thing going. They were playing at a pace where they should have been in that 7-8 game. They just kind of fell off at the end.
Yep.
Blew a lot of opportunities. I think that Pelicans team, when they get hot, are very dangerous. They're kind of a hodgepodge team as well, but that Pelicans team, I've got them beating Oklahoma City at home, and probably turn around and beating Minnesota too. I think the Minnesota team, I think their season ended yesterday, just to be honest with you. So I've got Lakers at 7 and Pelicans at 8. Any comments on that before I switch over to the East?
I'll just roll with because Minnesota will have home court against the Pelicans too.
Both games, yeah.
Yeah. Just give me and we just saw them manage to hold off the Pelicans. Now,
Sure did, yeah.
It was close, but they did hold them off without McDaniels for the second half of that game, and then without Gobert or whatever. So I'm gonna go with Minnesota, but it's only because I'm an Anthony Edwards fan. It's not because I have some supreme level of confidence in him. I just think that man's passion and his will, that he'll win one of the 2 games. Just give me the Lakers in 7, and I'll take Minnesota taking that 8 spot.
Well, with that being said, could you see Anthony Edwards being good enough to get Minnesota past the Lakers tomorrow?
I mean, it's possible, Sain.
Somebody got to guard him. It's the same stuff we talked about.
My partner John Martin believes it's, the line's 7.5. He said he liked Minnesota to cover the 7.5 because
I don't think it's going to be that big.
I don't know that Anthony can will them to a win on his own, but bro, that young man there, he is again what they lack, and I guess Kyle Anderson was trying to do it. Somebody to hold everybody accountable. They've got a face and a leader. That's Anthony Edwards, and he's just learning how to be that. Like everybody, he's still so young. He's learning how to be the leader. He is the face. It should go through him. But I think that's why we see, Jaden punching walls. They need they just need more structure. But Anthony Edwards is the face. I believe in him. And is it possible he could beat the Lakers? Absolutely tomorrow night. But it's going to be tough with no McDaniels though.
Yeah. Miami Heat are hosting the Atlanta Hawks. News came out today that Trae Young might be tradable, might be on the block as far as coming out of Atlanta. That team is so disjointed. Miami, they're terrible as well, but I think Miami's going to pull that game out. Raptors versus Bulls, I truly don't care. They're talking about Raptors offseason stuff like they don't still have a game to play. I can see the Bulls beating them in a one-off like that. I've got the Heat beating the Hawks, Bulls beating the Raptors, and then the Bulls beating the Hawks. Bulls get in as 8 seed, Heat get in as 7, but I could definitely see that switch the other way around with the Raptors winning twice as well. You have any thoughts?
The Bulls are an embarrassment. As an old Bulls fan we're an embarrassment. Just put us out to pasture, kill this version of them. They got it, bro.
So weird, man. That team should be better than that seems like to me.
It's disgusting. I don't know, man. Levine, for as much the numbers as he puts up, DeRozan too at this point in his career, none of those pieces fit. It's just not
so crazy.
It's not.
Those dudes are going. They're going crazy. Those 2 dudes are going crazy, but like it's not leading.
There's nothing else. And Kobe White's a mess. That was a stupid draft pick. And anyway, I'll roll with Heat to beat the Hawks like you had, and then I'll go with Hawks knock off the Bulls, and Trae gets in the playoffs as nasty as that thing looks.
All right, let me ask you this: total games won by the 7 and 8 seeds in the playoffs. The 2 top seeds in the East are the Milwaukee Bucks at 1, Boston Celtics at 2. Between those 4 teams that are in the play-in in the East, how many combined games are won in the first round? I'm gonna put the over at 3. Is it over or under 3?
It's under. It's under 3. It's under 3. I mean, I guess
it feels like 2 sweeps, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you.
If the Heat come through, maybe
they'll get Boston.
2 top. They get 2 tops.
Yeah.
2 game tops. Nobody else is getting a game to me.
Yeah, the Bucks are gonna clown the Bulls or especially the Raptors.
That's a
smack.
Sweet.
That's gonna be a smack. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, man, for sure. I'm a fan of the play-in. You seem to be a fan of the play-in, and I thank you guys for being fans of our show, Grind Season. We are here, final show of the regular season. It's really like the final. The regular season's over. So yeah, this is the first game of the off season. We're not quite in the playoffs. We do thank you guys for tuning in to Grind Season. So far, we've talked about Steven Adams suffering an injury. I mean, his injury keeping him out for probably most of the playoffs. Kenneth Lofton getting signed. go back and listen to that segment. It's going to be available if you jumped onto this segment first. This segment, of course, we talked about the NBA play-in. And now we will wrap things up with the segment that you guys hear once a week called Who Brought the SZNing, where we talk about the player who kind of shined, did his thing, brought something to the table, so to speak, since the last time we talked about this. I have a different spin. I don't really know who gets this season or not. But while you're talking, I'll figure that out. I'm going to throw it off to you, Jason Smith. Do you want to hear what the people had to say? Do you want to
let's hear that first.
Yeah, let's get into that real quick. Give me a second, man. Give me a second.
See if I'm on. Usually I'm on with the people. Usually I have the people's pick.
The people, Jason Smith, said that Kenneth Lofton Jr. brought the SZNing with 63% of the vote, which is kind of odd. He only played only played real minutes, I think, in maybe one of those games. I might be wrong.
It was 42 or 40 minutes. It was enough to cover 2 games.
It was enough to cover 3, you want to be honest with you. Kenneth Lofton was 63% of the vote. Jaren Jackson Jr. had a monster week as well with 32% of the vote. Desmond Bain had 5% of the vote.
That was my guy.
Xavier Tillman had 0%, didn't get a single vote. So are you riding with the people, Jason Smith, or are you stepping out on your own?
Already had it down. That's why I know I'm a man of the people. I already had it down. Kenneth Lofton is the winner. Okay. Yesterday, my wife cooked a very plump ham. She cooked it in orange juice, and it reminded me a lot of the way that the Grizzlies were letting Kenneth Lofton cook yesterday against that bum OKC team. Just 6 dudes. They wouldn't even pull him out the game. They can't. We ain't got nobody to come in and get you. So you got to play the 40 minutes. He was in there cooking like the plump ham my wife cooked. But when you cook it in the orange juice and it sucks up that juice, you get a fantastic performance. And that's what you get a fantastic product in that ham. This is 2nd straight week. Now, Bain was just a ham sandwich, just kind of normal. But the cooking of the ham yesterday reminded me of Roddy's performance on Sunday. 42 points, 17 of 25 from the field, 8 of 12 from the free throw line. Big Daddy, 6'6", undersized, but super sharp. Yeah, but monster. I love watching him play, and there's probably not going to be any other opportunities to probably get to give him the season award. So for the entire year, G League Rookie of the Year, the 4-year, $7 million deal that you mentioned. So right place, right time. And then the big game to cap it off all Sunday. Kenneth Lofton Jr. gets the season. He gets the whole ham. He is the whole ham.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. I'm a big fan of Junior Lofton as well. And man, that contract could be one of the bigger finesse contracts.
Being great. Yeah.
Because if he pans out and he's like one of your rotation bigs next year, and he's like averaging around 10, 11 points a game, that dude's contract is $7 million combined over 4 years.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that could be a real finesse deal if Junior Lofton pans out to be halfway as good as expectations or the hype, for sure. So I definitely agree. So we call him the orange juice is what he is. He's the ham in the orange juice, or orange juice?
He's the ham in the orange juice cooking.
It's kind of like the Kool-Aid man discussion. It's the Kool-Aid man. Is he the jar or the Kool-Aid?
Oh, the Kool-Aid man? he's the jar, bro.
Yeah, he's the jar. Yeah, the Kool-Aid man is the jar. He's not the Kool-Aid. Yeah,
I think.
Shout out. Kenneth Lofton, who also cooking compared to the Kool-Aid man. No for question. Sure. All right, now it's on me. I don't know who gets this salt. I don't know who gets this season, but somebody getting it. You ever had tastes of food that just got way too much salt in?
Yeah.
Somebody was throwing salt, hating on the Memphis Grizzlies, hating on me, hating on the organization, hating on everything. I don't get into the basketball gods talk because I'm a Christian. I don't play with God like that, even though I do play with God.
You play with God a little bit.
But I don't get into the basketball gods talk. But I'm throwing salt on. Somebody brought way too much salt to my playoff hopes by Steven Adams not being available. Somebody's a hater. I don't know who it is. The Grizzlies organization putting out weird injury updates. Y'all put too much salt in the game. Steven Adams, I'm gonna give you too much salt because you're just doing too much to be hurt for me. To be honest with you. That's it. Somebody just being salty out there, man. Somebody just brought way too much salt to the occasion. I don't know if it's GRIZZ PR. I don't know. I don't know who I need to give it to.
It is a strange situation, man, and nobody's pointed to a setback. The guy has looked like he's been ready to rock for a while now.
Yeah. They haven't came out and just said, "No, man, he out." I mean, he's out because of this, or we thought he'd be fine, or we're week to week with him, but we're.
But it has to be injury related, right? This isn't team related because
it's injury related.
Yeah, we've seen Jai and Steven over the shirt thing. Like everybody's good with Steven. You'd want him out there if he could.
Yeah. Here's one thing I'm gonna throw out too.
You worried about long term? Are you saying long term, like going into next year? Everything? Okay.
No, I don't think it's nothing like that at all. This is something else I'm gonna throw out too. You know, Jai got hurt in that Bucks game with future Grizzly Jay Crowder the other night. He hurt his hand or whatever, and then Jai sat down, and there was a video of Jai with like a basketball-sized wrap around his hand. I didn't watch it. I watched a little bit of the game. I was in mid-family mode for Easter yesterday.
He hit it into Jay's body, didn't he? He hit that finger into Jay's body.
His fingers kind of went backwards or whatever, hyperextended or whatever. But was that real? Was that video real of Jai with this big, huge basketball wrapped around his hand?
Oh, I didn't see that. I didn't see that
I
video.
think it was everything I saw of Jai, he didn't have anything on. But there was like a video where he had this thing looked like it was literally a basketball in his hand full of wrap or whatever. So I think Jai's fine. Haven't heard anything else. Yeah. He missed that game, and that was what was in the injury report is his hand. But I don't think it's going to affect him going into the playoffs at all. I think we're good as far as that. This will be the final show we do before. No, it's not. We'll do one more show. This will be the final show we do before the play-in tournament is over. We will do another show probably Friday. Record then after we know who's going to be in the play-in 2 days before the Grizzlies play on Sunday against whoever. I would probably put my money. It's probably going to be the Los Angeles Lakers. But yeah, we'll talk more about that, whatever matchup that is. Other matchups in the playoffs.
I can't believe you didn't give your boy Dylan Brooks the seasoning for what he had on the other day. But that's for another day, maybe.
That might be the reason why Steven Adams got hurt, man. You do stuff like that. The basketball guards got to drop salt on you, man, for real. Coming out there looking like somebody say he looked like Drake when he did the Cat Williams thing, but Drake had the perm. He looked like Drake on Walking Like a Talking video or something. Man, it was funny though. It was dope as hell. But that's definitely gonna be one of our topics. Which Dylan Brooks will we see in the playoffs? Because that's so pivotal, man. If the version of Dylan Brooks you get could very well determine our depth in this playoff, especially with the front court issues we're having. Knowing we saw Dylan Brooks play a lot of power forward in the playoffs against the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's definitely gonna be something we talk about Friday. But as far as today, we appreciate you guys for checking out Grind Season. My name is Anthony Sain, of course. Jason Smith is with me. Until next time, when we see you guys, keep grinding.